Going on, my friends? I'm Rick, your seat table. Well, got gray and white mama sitting up there, back there on the uh, towels on top. She got towels on everything over there, to help mama, in case she has an accident and stuff. But anyhow, so you want to be a game master? Well, they don't tell you as a new game master how to do anything. You as a new player, there's plenty of rules and aids and suggestions on how to play, how to be a good player. So you want to be a game master. I cannot emphasize enough, and this is personal experience. You should start with a pre-made module, a pre-made adventure. Now, whatever they're called today, it's commonly called adventures as far as I know, but back in the day, they were called modules, and they were called modules for a reason. Basically, they were modular. So if you go back to the earliest basic expert stuff, things like Keep on the Borderland, as I'm told, there was over 1 million copies printed, which I look back at, like I said, I had most of the stuff that was out back then. I literally at one summer, I had 13 yards. I was mowing 2, 3 yards every week, all over town, dragging that old push mower all over town and then later driving an old rider all over town. And I mowed and I mowed and I mowed, and in the winter I shoveled snow. I did all kinds of, it was a couple uh, times I helped put decorations up on the outside for cash. And in a small town, I had a reputation as being a very hardworking young man. And the irony is that unlike my best friend David, who was a very hardworking young man too, because he did a lot of that right alongside me, and we'd help each other on really big places and things like that. He saved his money and I spent mine. I bought a lot of junk food, a lot of Pepsi, and a lot of role playing games and most of the early modules. And now some of those are extremely rare and very valuable. And irony of irony, I gave mine away. So that's not what we were talking about. So, what I'm talking about, if you want to be a new GM, I highly recommend that you get a basic module. Now, this is kind of a bit more advanced. That's the issue with adventures today. And my experiences with adventures today, modules today, are quite limited compared to what they were 40 years ago. 40 years ago, like I said, when I was young and starting out as a game master and as a player, modules were the thing, literally the thing. Probably one of the most prominent similar was the Greyhawk campaign. When I got my red box set, there was either it was in the red box set or in the blue box set, that there was a introduction to Greyhawk. It was a smaller booklet that gave us the basics, and I think there was a map. And then a year or so after that, they came out with a boxed set for Greyhawk. It was a book a little about the size of this, a little smaller, that covered all the major things going on in the world. And then there was this beautiful color map that went with it. And my friend and I used that setting for almost everything through the 70s into the mid 80s, early 80s, until Forgotten Realms started coming out. Because once Forgotten Realms came out and Dragonlance came out, he became a Dragonlance fan, and he started going off into playing other game systems that I wasn't familiar with, I didn't want to play. But we were in high school at that point, and we had different groups of people at this point, which is how that kind of stuff kind of works its way out. Anyhow, if you want to be a new game master, by love of Pete, get yourself a module, and ideally a simple one. A reason I bring up Keep on the Borderlands, it is the most common, popular adventure module from the very late 70s, early 80s. I don't remember the exact year that it was published. And the year it was published was the year I bought a copy. And from a game master's perspective, everything's self-contained. So it's very good for new players to learn, because now they have the keep as a base, and then they go out into the caverns and the local countryside. And as the GM, you're right alongside them. So you have the pre-structured adventures at your fingertips. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. That's what this modules really, really serve a valuable tool for, is for new game masters. And they don't tell you about that. They don't talk about it. And if you can get the basic ones, the ones that are not as thick, not as heavy duty, you'll probably be better off than something that makes you have to do a lot of extra work. But you'll learn as time comes on. If you run these modules more than once, you learn that you can, as a game master, you learn what you can tweak and what you can't or shouldn't, how to enhance stuff to make an adventure more fun, and how to ad lib or how to expand. So we work from the module, well, let me use one from Star Wars. This one here, right? This one here is what I'm talking about. It's very thin, very straightforward, very easy, probably 30 pages, if that. And you can run a campaign off of this one module that can run for months. And the setting is rich enough with enough extras. As a GM, as a new GM, you start seeing the potential. Well, what if we included this? Or what if that was an option? Or what if they went over here? That's the basic kernel of learning to be a game master, period. Good or bad, that at this point doesn't matter. What it is you're understanding your options and seeing the potential from the existing material that's there. It's from these, running dozens and dozens and playing through dozens and dozens of modules, that I started to see the beauty and value of expanding and creating the games that I want to play, and I want the players to be engaged in as well. And trial and error. But it can be extremely daunting for a new GM to sit down and cold play, cold design from scratch this thing that may be in their brain that they now need to try to put it out in such a way that everybody can enjoy and share. That is a hell of a lot of work. And for a lot of new game masters, especially you younger ones, and I'm talking young game masters, there's this, if you get into the creative bug, you find yourself wanting to do even more and more and more and more elaborate and more things. And before you know it, you're consuming so much of your time on creating the sandbox and filling the sandbox and populating the sandbox, you're not playing in it. You're not playing in it. Or your friends are just back in their head because you're off in Lululand on some tangent because you spent so much effort and time working on it. But to them, what was the point of that? Trial and error is how we learn what works and what doesn't. And you have to start from somewhere. And these modules are where you start. You start with your core book and a module. If you're going to buy a game system for your children for the holidays, Christmas is coming. If you're thinking, now's the time I want to introduce my kids to this hobby, what should I do? How should I get started? Well, if you have no specific system in mind, I would say right off the bat, get your hands on one of the Renaissance versions of BX or whatever, isn't it? Basic Expert, what they call it, BX now. So if you can get that book and keep on the Borderlands or a PDF of it, you won't go wrong, and they will have loads of hours of fun, and encourage them to stay within the confines of the module in the beginning. Don't emphasize it. Don't drive that point home, because we want them to see, because some people will see it faster and sooner than others. Some players, some game masters, you will sit down at the table and you'll have lots of ideas and have no idea how to implement them, or become self-defeating. Others will come in and be too extreme. What I mean is, once again, trying to fill and populate in a massive setting that bogs down the action. Trial and error experience. Modules are your friends, right? Now, me personally, this is not a module. And yet, it is. This is a massive city setting. The map for it would cover part of that wall behind me just for the city. If you had all 4 maps put together, it would be a huge 8 foot or 6 foot by 4.5 foot map, right? So the settings are instant. And when I go through them and I can sit here and I have all the shops that I need, I have gobs and gobs of NPCs to tap from, and I have beautiful rumor and action charts. These really help, especially if you're new. If you can get some, and I don't know, I've seen mentions of some supplement that you can get through RPG drive-through that other players and game masters have compiled and published, and many of them are free, and you can go get some of these multi charts for things like setting up interactions and encounters and stuff like that within city environments, but in the country environment. I also strongly believe this is why so many people from my generation see Keep on the Borderland as a very integral starting point for everybody, for so many people, is that some settings are more easier to manage than others. A purely urban city environment setting is complicated. You can get very simple interactions within the setting. It's just a backstop. But your campaign set in the setting with the environment as an NPC, as the city being an NPC unto itself, can get extremely elaborate, in depth, and deep. Not something for a new GM to be trying, in my opinion. If you can get off and go into the bells and whistles and gears and wheels within wheels and all the convoluted complexities of social and dynamic and interaction and all this other crap that goes with running a table and playing a table and managing a table, and you can get off into that stuff and you just started, hey, good luck, Sheldon. You're special, right? No, I mean honestly, it's just one of those things that the simpler you start out, the better. That's why I said modules are very much the thing to start out. When I found this to be so engaging, and I got this in the early 80s, 82, 83, I got thinking about it because I got my driver's license when I was 16, and that would have been 2083 ish. Actually, it was 81, late 81, because I was already 18 before I graduated high school. I mean, that's just the way it all kind of played out. My my birthday being in September to the early end of the school year, and so I got my learner's permit, and whenever I could, my mom would have take me out so I could practice driving. And if I got the opportunity, I made an effort to get over by Ivor's Dungeon or whatever the store was called at the time, was something else, and to get my stuff. And early on, this is when I got these Judges Guild supplements, and they were such an eye opener for me for city environments that I was confident in running city environments pretty early on. But keep in mind, I was already 6 years, 7 years, or yeah, it was 14. No, I was 6 years, 5, 6 years of play already under my belt, and lots of modules, lots of modules. If you're going to be a GM, or if you know somebody who wants to be GM, do them a favor, do yourself a favor. Don't try to do everything at once. That's one of the danger for having a system as expansive as Dungeons and Dragons, for example. I got water. I'm gonna moisture. Now at least it ain't pee. I never know what's going to be on the table, right? So things like prestige classes, epic levels, none of that is on the table for a new GM and should not be. And if you're a player and you're asking your new GM to do that stuff, shame on you. If you're an experienced player doing that, really, really, because there are people that will like that. Keep in mind, you want this person to keep playing as a dungeon master, as a game master. They need to want to keep doing it. So we don't want to overwhelm them. And it's not for everybody. There's a reason why good game masters are hard to find. You know, dedicated ones obsessive, crazy ones. You know, in fact, I was out yesterday and I stopped. I had to go down and pick up, go do a church, and it so I went down there, and it didn't take very long. And then I had no, it was Monday night. I had 3 hours, almost 3 hours to kill before my next job because I couldn't start them before 6. And so I was sitting in the parking lot at JCD and Hobby, which is just up the street from where this church was. And I went in and looked at their bargain box and things like that. And while I'm sitting there and I'm reading something and eating a lunch, this fellow walks up to me, and he's basically the man, the head guy for the grease division of one of our bigger competitors. And he met me a few years ago, and he keeps every opportunity to come over and shake my hand, talk to me. He's trying to. I don't think he's outright trying to say he's going to recruitment, but the offers have been made in the past, not just by him. There's a lot of the others that are astounded I'm still working for who I'm working for, and as long as I have been, and that's something I don't really want to play with if I don't have to. Life going to change this next year. Things get really bad, really bad. I may have no luck. That may not have an option, but to go looking for a better job, a better paying job someplace else. And one of those competitors are the first places to go. Right. Anyhow. If if you just happen to, he said he subscribed to the channel too. So if you see this video and you hear me, ignore my babbling, right? But you know who you are, and I'm not going to name your company stuff because we're not trying to do that stuff on out here on YouTube land. So once again, new GM, you want to be a new GM? For the love of God, modules adventures are your friends. Seriously. And if you're getting your kids involved in this stuff, modules are their friends. They see what you do all the time and they want to emulate what you do. But how do you explain to them how you got to do what you're doing now when you were their age? Think about that till next time. Hope you have yourselves. I hope you've all had a great Thanksgiving holiday. Obviously, this is Thanksgiving while I'm doing this video. It won't be posted for a little bit, so it'll be well past. It is what it is. So anyway, probably be the last video I'm doing for today because it's going on 10, and I think they're going to come around noon. But I don't want to be caught flat-footed for sure. I do have planned on Saturday. I'm going to review Project Nelson. This is one of Stephen Cross's fan projects. My friends, if you're BattleTech, Snow Ravens, bloody reason this bloody thing should be canon. I'm not exaggerating. I ain't doing that just to look. I like Mr. Cross. I don't know you, Stephen. I don't know you very well. I don't. I do like you. I heavily appreciate the amount of work you put in. Once again, I know for a fact how much work this took. And the fact, and then that you had the beautiful options of a professional artist who goes on to big fame with the BattleTech community do the artwork for you. You, you're the goat, man. You're the goat of fan projects, Steven. I'm just telling you, this one is the bomb. Just telling you, right? And then, of course, I'm hoping to do a video on this particular one here too. This is the complete Arcane, circa 2002, 2003 ish. Right, don't give me a quote on that. I got this at the bargain. Once again, I got this at the bargain bin at JC Hobby a couple years ago. A lot of nice stuff in here, a lot of inner stuff in here. Not so much that I'm overwhelmed by it or anything like that, but hey, there's a reason why 3.5 for Dungeons and Dragons has a reputation for being very crunchy, and that's because there are literally scores and scores of books like this that have been created, and they offer such a wide range of possibilities. It can be extremely daunting for new players. Once again, I can't emphasize enough, if you're going to have somebody who wants to be a new GM, most systems you don't have a choice. If you wanted to play, I don't know, the One Ring now, you'd have to use their system and go through their system. I've not played the One Ring, so I don't know how easy that would be. Name your poison. There's a whole lot of systems. I never got into Pathfinder. I've seen it. I read some of it. The reason I never got into it was it's bloody D&D. No offense to the people that created Pathfinder and the nuances, and you can argue all you want about how different it is, and then there's some differences because by design they have to have differences, or there be conflict of interest, then lawsuits could happen. And God forbid you did not want to play that route with a big corporation like Hasbro backing them up. So that said, there's still a lot of extra crunch in there, and it's too much for new players. And I'm of the distinct opinion that they should start with a simple system. Even better, like I said, the Dark Age of Man would be a good one to start. Somebody who's very very new to running a game. But the downside with a system like that is that yes, you can learn to play it, but you're ill suited from that presenter position. You cannot be a very good game master in a full-on system, heavy, crunchy system, because it's not going to prepare you for that. That's where the basic stuff comes into play. This is why basic D&D is still a thing. The BX is still a thing today. It's because literally, well, hi, Mama. Did you come over here? Yeah, right there. So literally, the basics, then the expert, and then advanced. That's the beautiful thing. In part, this is why so many people started out the way they did in the hobby. It started with basic and expert. I started with basic because that's what there was. I didn't have that choice. But I know many, many people who started, got the more elaborate system, then come back and say, I just can't make heads or tails of it. And I hand them a copy of the basic and they're banging on it because it's simple. It follows the KISS system, keeping it simple, because it's a complicated, complex thing. And not everybody has that creative obsession or twinge or tweak or drive. So for some people, they can still they can still be really good game masters, really good dungeon masters. It's just, it takes longer for them to get there, or they're much more narrow fielded. And we've all said, if you play enough, you will sit at a table with somebody like that. And you will be challenged as a player, because they're not what you're used to, or they're, the opposite side of that is where a player who's played with a mediocre GM for a long time sits down with a good one, it spoils them. They get a taste of what it could be, what it might be and ought to be, and then they go back to and they're not happy with it. That can be an issue. Anyway, keep Iowa's prolonged goodbyes. It's an Iowa thing where we say goodbye, and then 15 minutes later, we're still saying goodbye. Till next time, I'm Rick. That's Mama. You're you. It's a holiday. Was a holiday. New holidays are coming. See you then.